Today on Forbes, why America's power grid will be able to withstand the $2.5 trillion AI data center building boom. Between now and 2030, the giants of AI like OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta aim to more than double the computing power dedicated to growing and operating their non-human minds. They currently use about 40 gigawatts of power, enough for 30 million homes. The cost of this ambition will be astronomical, about $50 billion per gigawatt of computing power built for a total of $2.5 trillion over the next 5 years alone. Roughly 80% of that will go to buy GPUs made by the likes of NVIDIA and AMD. The rest, some $500 billion, will provide the energy via new power plants and transmission lines. At the trajectory these hyperscalers are on, Goldman Sachs figures that by 2030, American data centers will consume 500 terawatt hours per year, more than 10% of total domestic electricity. Zach Krause, an analyst at East Daily, a Denver energy consultancy, says, quote, "I think we should already be raising the alarm on the potential for facilities to complete construction but be without power in 2028 and 2029. I hope they don't march into a wall." Some already have. In Oregon, Amazon Data Services has filed a complaint against Berkshire Hathaway subsidiary PacifiCorp, which has refused to provide power to energize some of Amazon's $30 billion in data center investments there. In Santa Clara, California, two 50-megawatt centers developed by Digital Realty and Stack Infrastructure are ready to go, but can't get electricity until Silicon Valley Power completes $450 million in grid upgrades, not expected until 2028 or later. Faced with new demand for 30 gigawatts of power, utility AES in Ohio told developers they had to enter into long-term contracts to buy 85% of the power they want. The queue dropped by more than half to just 13 gigawatts. Amid the doomsday scenarios are optimists. Joseph Majcut, Director of Energy Security at CSIS, writes in a new report that this is a nice problem for the United States to face and overcome. He writes, quote, "Rapid demand growth should be good news. Despite trade conflicts and macroeconomic uncertainty, the United States is positioned to power more economic growth and strategic industries than we've seen in decades." Carson Curl, power markets analyst at Enverus in Calgary, says, quote, "A lot of people are saying power is the constraint. Increasingly, we believe that is not necessarily true." He thinks building enough, fast enough, shouldn't be a problem. Alex Tang of VC firm 50 Years agrees. Tang, who is invested in nuclear, batteries, and solar startups, says, quote, "If a hyperscaler has committed to it, it's going to happen. We are one of the most efficient capital markets. We have shifted on a dime and can stand up a massive effort." According to federal data, the U.S. built 40 gigawatts of new power plants in 2023 and is on track to erect 63 gigawatts this year, half of which will be solar panels. Plenty of data center developers are taking the situation into their own hands, building their own power generation on site rather than relying on utility companies to hook them up. These so-called, quote, behind-the-meter generators are especially prevalent in Texas, which has its own power grid that isn't subject to federal regulatory oversight, enabling easier permitting. In Abilene, Texas, the Stargate project, being developed by OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and investment firm MGX, is building 10 gas turbines to serve as backup power. Unexpected entrants into this space include the big oil companies, which aim to arbitrage the price difference of their low-value gas against high-value electricity. Chevron plans to build 5 gigawatts of gas turbines for data centers by 2027 in the Permian Basin of Texas, where gas is so plentiful that prices at the Waha pipeline hub have gone negative this year. Giant oil companies, which already operate dozens of power plants at their refineries, will be able to lean on vendors for utility-scale turbines. Others have turned to gas. Private equity giant Brookfield inked a $5 billion deal with Bloom Energy for their fuel cells that run on gas. According to Goldman Sachs, natural gas will power about 60% of all this new data center demand. For full coverage, check out Christopher Hellman's piece on forbes.com. This is Kieran Meadows from Forbes. Thanks for tuning in.